Every great relationship is built on honesty. Wait, no, that can't be right. This is supposed to say, women are lying bitches, and when you make them orgasm, they steal your souls. At least that's what conservative men seem to believe. Ironically, they are the ones who are consistently shown to be liars, who will do anything but go to therapy to try and get the one thing they'll never have. Puss. Hello, ladies, men, and non-binary friends. Welcome back. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while in some form, in some capacity, because no matter how hard I try, the conservative dating horror stories are like a MAGA red rash that just keeps coming back.
I believe more young men are lying in dating about who they voted for, and I believe this because this happened to me. Anyway, so I was dating this guy. First day, I make it clear that I'm liberal. Couldn't really get a sense of where he was landing, which honestly should have been a yellow flag. But anyways, second day, I decided to be more intentional about it and just directly ask him, like, are you politically involved? And he said, not as much as I want to be, but I am more moderate, but I voted for Kamala. And I said, great. And then from that, I figured we would get to know each other's politics throughout the course of a natural dating. I don't need to go through every single belief of mine and make sure that we're aligned on the second day. Anyways, over the next 2 months, we are dating, and we did have more political conversations. It definitely did seem he leaned more left during these conversations. Anyways, after 2 months, he asked me to be exclusive on a Wednesday, and I say, yes, this is going really well. He's been a really nice guy. I'm not in love with him yet, but he's a nice guy. Friday morning, I had to send him good morning, and then he said good morning and sends me this long message, and it has him saying, I've not been honest with you about who I align with politically, which, first of all, you're not even an adult enough to have this conversation face to face. And we had multiple conversations about politics, like I said, so it wasn't just a one time and done and I've ignored it. You were consistently lying to me, which is just so crazy. And basically in this message, he does apologize for it eventually, but he's also saying I just really liked you, and I just really wanted you to get to know me more, and basically saying now that we're exclusive and now that we've been seeing each other for 2 months, that I know his heart better and that I should be able to maybe look past this. He did say I understand if you can't though. First of all, I was so what did you lie about? And he's I voted for Trump. And I said, and he also said, you made so clear from the beginning that you wanted someone whose values align with your own, and I'm sorry for lying. And I was cool. And I said, I'm not interested in pursuing this any further. Not only do your values not match with mine, but also even more so, you lied about this. And it was really annoying because it wasted 2 months of both of our lives. It wasted dates that we went on. It wasted money. But anyways, it was a really frustrating experience. But I don't think I'm the only woman who's experienced this. I think that a lot more young women are coming into the fact that, and maybe young men, I can't speak for their experience, that people are lying about this.
This lovely lady's story time came up on my FYP, and she is unfortunately not the first of her kind. The jesters continue to swindle the maidens, when all we want is the pickle priest.
I will tickle you with this pickle. I gave you the decaf, is that all right?
Yeah, that's all I take, yeah.
I hereby bless this pickle.
And while this is deeply disturbing, I also find it a little bit funny because these are the same men that claim to be so proud of their beliefs and their vote. If you're so proud, why are you trying to hide it? It's because you're a spineless coward with no real convictions. Your dogshit views aside, why the fuck would anyone want to date someone with such a flimsy sense of self? No relationship that is based on lies survives. Best case scenario, you date for a few months, waste both of your time, and eventually break up when she asks you how you feel about Black Lives Matter. That's it. What's the end game here? It's miserable for both of you. If you're only looking to get laid, but you go under the pretense of looking for a long-term relationship with completely different beliefs than she is, especially when she's upfront about it, you are a fucking dirtbag. I'd like to thank Aura for sponsoring this video. I don't know about you, but I don't trust the government to protect my personal information online. Last year, major companies across the country had data breaches with millions of customers' personal information being released online. I'm sure you're all aware of the National Public Data Breach that led to pretty much every American social security number being posted online, which is terrifying. My credit card was actually hacked during this breach. I've talked about this numerous times before. And I was literally looking for some kind of software to protect my information online. In this economy, the only person who should be accessing my money is me. Aura reached out, I tried their product, and it had way more features than I was expecting. I'm so used to the shit that I pay for, doing the absolute bare minimum and making me pay for extra features to get the things I actually want from the service. But I didn't have that problem with Aura. They give you everything you need to protect your personal information online. They have your real-time credit score, and they can freeze your credit, so no one can open a credit card in your name without you knowing. They can see if any of your emails or passwords have been leaked on the dark web. They have real-time alerts if your data has been compromised, including your bank accounts. Aura scanned my my entire computer of hundreds of thousands of files for viruses and malware. And now, for anything I download in the future, they will actually auto-scan to prevent any of those viruses and malware from getting on my computer. And they'll also contact data brokers for you to stop them from selling your information. There's a lot more, but I will let you check it out for yourself. Go to aura.com/happypancake to try Aura 2 weeks for free, and that will give you plenty of time for Aura to find out if any of your personal data has been exposed. So stop leaving yourself open to data breaches. Click the link in my description for a 14-day free trial. Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video, and thank you to you for giving it a try. If you'd like to help my channel and continue to support what I do here, supporting my sponsors is the best way to do it. I'm incredibly grateful to Aura. They are my longest running sponsors. I absolutely adore them. So give them some love. Now back to the video. Now my biggest question while exploring this phenomenon is like, why the fuck do they do this? I truly cannot wrap my head around it, because like, wouldn't you want to be in a relationship with someone who aligns with your values? Like, wouldn't that just ultimately make for a much happier and more enjoyable life? Like, Republican women already exist. Well, I've noticed that since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, many women are split, says Sarah Sloan, a couples and sex therapist. Many are having a viscerally negative response to men who identify as hardcore Republicans, while others are moving towards trad wife marriages that oddly resemble a 24/7 kink relationship. Men lie about politics on dating apps for the same reason they lie about their height, to gain access to a larger dating pool. No one wants to be screened out prematurely. It can be tempting to justify this kind of lying as merely, quote, gaming the algorithm. This might explain why Reddit is full of women realizing months or even years into a relationship that their partners lied about politics, gambling that political divide would matter less once she was emotionally invested. This is villain shit. These men think that they can win women over later, like all it takes is just getting your foot in the door, and if the dick is good enough and if you're likable enough, they will disregard your entire belief system? I'm queer, so if someone wants to date me but also voted for a politician who campaigns on taking my rights away, I'm gonna decline and be very confused. My rights and my identity are unfortunately political right now. I don't want to fuck someone who doesn't view me as a person worth respecting, and I don't want to introduce them to my friend circle. If a man doesn't believe in my right to control my own body when it comes to an abortion, that tells me a lot about what he thinks about my rights to my body in other situations. Throw in a surprise whoopsie and he could make your life a living hell in a multitude of ways. When I was casually dating, a lot of men would present themselves as, quote, moderates, but it would come out over the course of chatting that they were really conservatives who had one gay friend, and they were always offended when I ended things over their political views. They couldn't understand why something so, quote, minor as my rights to my body would matter to me. I've known a lot of women who have dated more conservative men throughout their lives, but there was a change when Trump was elected, and wow, there's been another big one since Roe v. Wade was overturned. Now, every woman I know that's still dating is much more direct about her preferences and finding out what his ideology is, because at this point, a guy hiding his conservative beliefs genuinely puts us at risk. But sometimes it's not a wider dating pool that they're after. Sometimes they're looking for liberal women specifically, while hiding their political beliefs, which is even more fucked up.
A straight white dude that likes Trump but is only into liberal women is a lot like being in the closet, because it's like they're gonna ask you about it eventually, and you have to say what we all say, which is yeah, I don't really follow politics. Not that hard once you get used to it. You just like lie a lot.
Yeah, it's actually not true that every guy that you meet just happens to be the perfect masculine, but also liberal, pro-Palestine, perfect human. They're making that shit up. I do this. Guys, if you are a man on Tinder, if you don't make shit up and you don't pretend that you're liberal, you get no play, period.
A lot of women are coming forward telling their stories of men who lied about their political views in order to date them. So conservative women can say this all they want, but this is the reality. Conservative men are complaining about the fact that liberal women don't want to date them. If they wanted conservative women, do you think they'd be complaining about liberal women not wanting to date them?
It has been explained to me, and it is still so wild. I am truly bamboozled by this. I am baffled. I am aghast. As I was researching this, I couldn't help but be reminded of the spy cops scandal in the UK. For those of you that don't know, this was a state-sanctioned project documented from the 1970s to the early 2000s, where officers were given fake identities to infiltrate left-wing groups. Now, how does this relate to this topic, you might ask? Well, in addition to feeding information about these left-wing groups to their government, these officers also entered relationships and had children with the women in these groups, sometimes multiple women, despite fully intending to abandon them after their deployment and return to their, quote, normal life. Now, these undercover officers have defended their disgusting, manipulative, and heinous actions, saying that having sex with people in these groups was, quote, regarded as part of the job. And if we're taking them at their word, then this was literally a state-sanctioned attempt to baby trap liberal and left-wing women with men who would eventually abandon them and surrender them to the broken systems that they were trying to change. Evil, 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 evil. You will never convince me that this is not fucking evil. These women have spoken out saying how they've needed years of therapy to recover, and some have never recovered, saying that it's ruined their lives, and I truly, truly cannot even imagine. It is horrifying. I have an article linked below that goes into this further, but just read at your own risk. And you might think this is an overreaction or a bit of a stretch, but the same things are happening here nonetheless. The only difference between conservative men lying to liberal women to get into these relationships with them and these officers is that these officers were getting paid for it. These guys are just doing it for the love of the game, baby. And granted, these officers were also lying about their names, which did end up on some of their children's birth certificates. Yeah, the fake names ended up on the birth certificates. Anyway, but the fundamental aspect of their morals, beliefs, and worldview that seemingly enticed these left-wing women was a complete lie. And again, this is the issue that we're talking about today. This is what we're seeing in the modern dating scene. Women right now are a lot more careful about who they're dating with the political climate as it is, but it is so easy to baby trap someone, and it's even easier with all the abortion restrictions that are in place and expanding. If you're dating someone new, please be so fucking careful. Jesus Christ. Do not get saddled with a kid with someone who does not value your rights or bodily autonomy. People have talked about this phenomenon and cited that liberal women are easier to date because they don't demand the performance of trad masculinity the way that trad women do. Liberal women often don't care about having to work. In fact, they usually expect to share those responsibilities with their partner. They also usually don't care if a man has to cry or show vulnerability. In fact, it is often encouraged to do so. While conservative trad women make their relationship, their family, and their faith their identity. They are typically more demanding of their boyfriends and their husbands in terms of performing that traditional masculinity, and demanding that their boyfriends and husbands show up as the sole provider in terms of finances, fitting that perfect image of infallible hypermasc hubby. Because for these trad women, this image is their life. That's their identity. That's what defines them. And if that's not good, then what else do they have? But there are also arguments that these conservative men actually enjoy the idea of taking a liberal woman and making her subservient. That the pursuit of a free bird is more appealing than the pursuit of a caged one. Liberal women are more likely to be independent, have their own lives, have hobbies, have their own friends, their own job, and are typically more interesting people, which makes it all the more satisfying if they can be broken. Trevor Noah has a good quote about this in his book, Born a Crime. The way my mother always explained it, the traditional man wants a woman to be subservient, but he never falls in love with subservient women. He's attracted to independent women. He's like an exotic bird collector, she said. He only wants a woman who is free because his dream is to put her in a cage. And despite how dehumanizing and fucking gross this argument is, it's also devastating to women on both sides. Because you have liberal women who don't want anything to do with these men but are being swindled and lied to, and then you have conservative women who just simply aren't wanted, despite playing by the rules. And it's really sad, honestly. Not that I necessarily feel bad for conservative women, because I think a lot of them advocate for shitty things that are actively making so many people's lives worse. But there are so many of these women who are willing to live out these men's fantasies, and these men don't want them. There is no payoff to being a conservative woman. You're not seen as a full person with autonomy. You do not have the same privileges and allowances that they do. And even if you do manage to marry one of them, give them kids, they still might just cheat on you with someone 20 years younger when they get bored of you. And this goes beyond dating. This applies to the culture as well. Despite conservatives chattering on about how much they don't want immigrants in our country or hate queer people, they still want to be in liberal, queer, and BIPOC spaces. They want to go to the theater despite it being a queer-dominated space. They claim to hate Hollywood but insist that Superman would have voted for Trump. They're in support of censoring and rewriting American history surrounding slavery, but they will listen to music by Black artists. They'll watch football, basketball, or any sport that has majority Black players. They'll be supporting the horrific actions of ICE, and then they'll go to a Mexican restaurant with their family. No one wants to watch conservative media. The Daily Wire is dying. A slow and painful death. And the only shows and movies that have actually had any success are the ones that are mouthpieces for their batshit beliefs. The actual artistic projects that they've tried to put out are garbage because conservatives make shit art, famously so. They claim to hate marginalized groups, but they still want what we create. And I'm not saying that marginalized people are only worth what they have to offer to society either, but there is this inherent hypocrisy of conservatism where you claim to stand by these principles that you contradict in practice. And it goes back to the coward thing, the flimsy beliefs. This is also what I mean by saying nothing exists in a vacuum. It's all connected. Conservative women lying to liberal women so they can get them to date them is not the only thing that's happening here. This affects this, affects this, affects this. But if we zoom out for a second, there are actual tangible consequences to this shit. There is a very real safety concern to date someone who is conservative if you are part of a marginalized group. Not just women, but if you're queer, if you are BIPOC, if you're disabled, etc. I don't want to be with someone if my safety and happiness isn't their number one priority. I want to be able to live my life to the fullest. And I can't do that if my rights and the rights of the people I love are in constant debate. The decisions that people make are not based solely on that one thing. It is based on the entirety of their lived experience, and that goes for everyone. I would be remiss if I didn't explain how the Manosphere plays into this, because with Red Pill Manosphere content, there is this entitlement that men feel to women's bodies, that they're owed our devotion, our loyalty, and they're owed pleasure for simply being a man, which is a fucking fantasy, to be clear. And instead of reflection on why they might be getting rejected by these women or trying to see where they're coming from, they resort to deception and playing pretend, which is corny as fuck, and again, also evil. Because politics is never just politics, but especially now. It's about human rights, it's about safety, it's about equity and empathy. Straight men need women more than women need them. That has been made very clear. There's that happiness study that people always cite about how the happiest women are the ones that are single and have no children, and the happiest men are the ones that are in relationships. Now, we don't have time to get into all that, and that's not really what this video is about, but it does seem that men are willing to do literally anything except make themselves more dateable. We constantly hear about the male loneliness epidemic, but we don't hear enough about men trying to make themselves more appealing to the people they're trying to date. They have this eternal victim complex, like it's always someone else's fault. And again, there's this weird entitlement that they feel to having a relationship and having a family. It is something they feel like they are owed. When it comes to improving yourself, there are so many avenues you can take. Why don't you see what the left is all about, instead of hearing these random talking points talking about how the left is evil, the radical left is so evil? Ask yourself why the vast majority of women are so staunchly in the camp of liberal and leftism. Listen to Zoran Mamdani. He is a Democratic candidate beloved by the people. Go to therapy if you have feelings of entitlement towards women. And if you want that extra bump, get a hobby and start working out. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Do some cardio, do some weightlifting, play basketball or soccer with a community league. You can make some friends and pick up a hobby that isn't video games. I love video games as much as the next person. Pick up a hobby that is not fucking video games. Do things that make yourself more appealing and more interesting and work from there. Also, let me be clear. Men are still getting into relationships. This is anecdotal, of course, but I went to 5 weddings last year alone, okay? And 4 of them involved straight men. But do you know what all of these men had in common? 1, they had good jobs, which the market is shit. I can understand struggling to find a good job. But they had good jobs. They are capable of being emotionally vulnerable. They're kind. They genuinely care about their wives and their wives' happiness. These men are getting married because they are good, responsible men. I don't buy that trying to find someone is impossible. It's not impossible. Difficult and impossible are 2 different things. It is possible. Have you ever seen those Birds of Paradise? You see the choreography they whip out to find a mate? That's the energy that you gotta bring. When your rights and bodily autonomy are not guaranteed, why would you ever trust anyone who votes for that party, let alone share your life with them? I'm going to say that again. When your rights and bodily autonomy are not guaranteed, why would you ever trust anyone who votes for that party? If you don't align politically with someone that you want to date, that's fine, whatever. But find someone who actually shares your worldview instead of trying to trick people into liking you. As always, I have Rowan's GoFundMe linked below. She was supposed to attend university this year, but Israel bombed her home and her school out of existence. If you'd like to donate but you can't, that's totally okay. Make sure to leave a like and a comment for the algorithm, because there's got to be be someone on this godforsaken app that can give $1 or $2. Another way that you can help Palestinian families is by watching my D&D campaign, Westerly Academy, where all the ad revenue goes directly to Palestinian families. So by literally watching D&D, you are helping the people of Palestine. Make sure to check out aura.com/happypancake to try Aura 2 weeks for free. And if you really want to be a sweetheart, you can join my Patreon to support me every month. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to hear more from me. Please take care of yourselves and each other. Bye. Very special thank you to Bagel's dad, Derek, Anonymous, Tiny Axes, and Robin Fellows.